Hello, friends. So, this is a podcast and discussion for a role called as Customer Success Manager. There are a couple of roles and responsibilities for this role, and the context is it is for a e-commerce software company. So, this is basically a AI-based bots discussion. Some scripted things are there, and then I will be joining as a host. So, let's get started.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Sometimes we look at job titles and they seem, well, pretty straightforward. Until you look at the scale. Today we're taking on a role that sounds strategically impossible, honestly. We're talking about the Customer Success Manager, or CSM. But one who's tasked with guiding the success of, get this, 1 million customers in a high-stakes e-commerce setting.
It's just a mind-boggling number, and it's so much more than a job title at that point. It's really an organizational pivot.
A pivot, how so?
Well, when you scale to that magnitude, the job stops being about individual relationships. It has to. It becomes a really sophisticated operational and product strategy role.
Right.
We've gone through the sources you shared, and our mission today is really to cut right to the core of that. How does that traditional, relationship manager role transform?
Hey there. Want to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, hello there. So let's get started. So initially, can you tell me how the customer discovery happens?
Hello, welcome in. We're so glad you're here.
That is a fantastic question to kick us off.
You're jumping right into the core process here.
And that question about customer discovery, it really sets the stage.
Because at this scale, traditional discovery is impossible.
You can't call 1 million people.
Right. So the process changes entirely.
Discovery happens by integrating 2 key data streams.
Exactly. Our source material points to this in the third pillar, feedback loop integration.
The CSM translates customer pain points. That's the qualitative discovery.
And they combine that with behavioral data. That's the quantitative discovery.
This, what they say and what they do synthesis, is the discovery mechanism for a scaled CSM.
We call that translation, turning feedback into the next set of concept requirements.
So that's how discovery happens.
It transforms, and we are going to...
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
All right, so moving on. What is customer advocacy and what are the tips for it?
Oh, that's perfect.
You are pushing us right into pillar 1.
We were just about to jump in right there.
Customer advocacy is really the foundational mission.
And it's the most misunderstood term at this scale.
Because when you hear advocate, you think of a personal champion.
Someone fighting your corner one-on-one.
But when your user count is 1 million, that definition has to completely flip.
You can't clone yourself 10,000 times.
Exactly. Our source material defines this not as individual advocacy.
Instead, it's acting as the primary long-term advocate for the entire user base.
So the CSM isn't advocating for an individual user's complaint.
They're advocating for the structural success of the whole cohort.
The primary tip here is the mindset shift. Advocacy is strategic alignment.
The CSM has to ensure that the user's collective business goals align perfectly with the platform's capabilities.
This is a great callback to discovery.
If 1 million users are struggling with conversion rates, for example,
Well, that's not a user problem, it's structural misalignment.
the tip for the CSM is to diagnose that systemic failure.
They're responsible for designing a city where 1 million people can move and thrive efficiently.
They're the chief alignment officer for the customer base.
That's the biggest tip. Think structural assurance, not neighborhood watch.
That's high-stakes ad.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, moving on. So what about technical problem solving? How the CSM comes into picture for solving technical problems?
That is a critical transition. We're moving right into pillar 2, which is technical problem solving.
That's right, because that kind of structural assurance you just mentioned also means fixing things when they break.
And at a scale of 1 million users, that means technical complexity at a terrifying volume.
The core question you raised is exactly how this CSM fits in.
Our sources clearly state this role must resolve complex technical issues.
And provide what they call high-touch support to maintain platform reliability.
So this CSM layer, they are not your tier 1 support.
No, how do I reset my password questions here?
This is a strategic triage system for the big stuff.
They are handling technical failures that threaten the foundation of massive user trust.
If a failure is complex, high stakes, and could impact, say, hundreds of thousands of users.
That failure goes straight to the strategic CSM layer.
Think of a major payment gateway integration failing, for example.
That lands on their desk because losing reliability means losing customers en masse.
Precisely. They must have the technical fluency to diagnose these systemic breakdowns.
And then communicate the resolution strategy to the engineering team.
Crucially, they communicate the trust recovery strategy back out to the entire user base.
It's an incredibly high-pressure point of failure.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, are there any ready-made tools or some internal tools and techniques which they use to solve the technical problems?
That is a brilliant follow-up question.
Okay, let's unpack this. The how.
Because the sheer volume demands unique techniques.
Right, they can't just use standard ticketing.
Our source material emphasizes that this technical problem solving is intrinsically tied to maintaining reliability and trust.
So the tools aren't just for fixing, they're for predicting and prioritizing.
Think of the techniques as being centered around dynamic triage and root cause analysis at scale.
They need internal dashboards, highly advanced ones, that immediately flag systemic anomalies affecting, say, 10,000 customers or more.
That's the technique. Filtering out the noise to focus solely on the structural failures.
The CSM uses these internal tools to translate the raw failure data into a narrative for engineering.
They're essentially using data visualization tools to isolate the exact moment and location of structural failure,
which is then used to provide that high-touch support and recovery strategy for the affected user base.
So it's not a generic...
Oh, back to our listener. What's up?
Yeah, what about feedback loop integration, how it is done? Give me one use case.
That is a perfect pivot point.
Okay, let's unpack this. The how of Pillar 3.
Because the previous discussion about the tools for problem solving naturally leads us here.
That technical data, the raw failure data, is actually one of the key inputs for the feedback loop.
You're asking how it's done, and you want a use case.
This is where the role really transforms from reactive firefighter to proactive architect.
We established earlier that the CSM translates customer pain points. That's the qualitative discovery.
And they combine that with behavioral data, the quantitative discovery.
The feedback loop integration is the formal engine that turns that synthesis into action.
Let's use an example related to the e-commerce context.
Imagine the CSM's behavioral data tools, the advanced dashboards we just mentioned, flag an anomaly.
Say 50,000 customers in the last week are all abandoning their shopping carts right after hitting the shipping calculator page.
That's the quantitative data. Widespread pain manifested by a specific user behavior.
Now, the CSM needs the qualitative data. They look at support tickets or survey responses.
And they see many customers mentioning confusion about regional tariff fees or surprise delivery times.
Okay, the pain point is identified. Shipping cost opacity is causing massive churn.
The CSM's job, the feedback loop integration, is to translate that pain into what we call a concept requirement.
So the output isn't a simple request to fix the shipping page.
The concept requirement they present to engineering might be implement a dynamic, pre-checkout customs and shipping fee simulator.
That is a strategic blueprint for a whole new system, not just a bug fix.
It addresses the structural misalignment, our earlier talk about structural advocacy, and formalizes the solution. Hey, yeah, what's up?
Excellent, excellent. Now let's talk about retention and scaling. So what is the thing to be done to retain a customer or scaling?
Oh, that's perfect timing.
You are pushing us right into Pillar 4.
That structural misalignment and the concept requirement we just talked about.
That leads directly into the core challenge of retention and scaling.
You're asking, essentially, how you retain 1 million customers.
And how do you manage to scale success for all of them at once?
The traditional methods just don't work here. You can't hire enough people.
Our source material gives us the key strategy for retention at this scale.
It relies heavily on utilizing automation.
The CSM's strategic knowledge of what success looks like is coded into the machine.
The thing to be done is to design intelligent, automated systems.
These systems maintain personalized success milestones for that massive customer base.
You get that personalized success not through a person, but through the system they architect.
For example, if a user hasn't engaged with a key feature in 30 days.
The automated system might trigger a tailored email or an in-app prompt.
This is a retention intervention, but it's delivered at scale.
The CSM is constantly tuning those systems based on the behavioral data we talked about earlier.
So retention becomes a function of automated strategic intervention.
And scaling is achieved by moving the high-touch outcome from a human task to a systemic design challenge.
The CSM is the architect of that automated journey.
Their input is about designing the systems that deliver those high-touch outcomes automatically.
And they just monitor the aggregate performance of those systems, tweaking them based on data.
That is the true leverage. Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So talking about retentions, is it always a good idea to give discounts?
Okay, let's unpack this. That's a classic retention question.
And it relates directly to the strategic thinking of a scaled CSM.
Is a good idea? No. Especially not at this scale.
Discounts are a transactional solution to what is often a structural problem.
If 1 million users are leaving, a discount might stop churn temporarily.
But it doesn't solve the core issue of why they were leaving in the first place.
Remember our shipping example.
If the platform is confusing, a discount is just a distraction.
The CSM's job, as defined by our source, is systemic.
They focus on driving user adoption and retention strategies at scale.
The core retention strategy here is platform reliability and ensuring business goals align.
That's our structural advocacy callback.
Discounts are a quick left.
Yep, go on.
Okay, thanks about the discounting. What about the product evolution? Can you expand on that?
Okay, thanks about the discounting. What about the product evolution? Can you expand on that?
You're right. Let's keep that focus on systemic solutions.
That's a perfect pivot point for Pillar 5, product evolution,
This is how the CSM shifts from protecting the present.
to actively shaping the next 5 years of the product itself.
Our source material is very explicit about this collaboration.
The CSM must collaborate with cross-functional teams.
Why? To influence the product roadmap directly.
It's not just about passing along complaints, which is what we covered with discounts.
The influence comes from combining two key inputs.
First, the internal user feedback and the concept requirements,
These are those strategic blueprints we talked about earlier.
like implementing that dynamic shipping fee simulator.
But they pair that internal data with a forward-looking view.
They must also influence the roadmap based on emerging e-commerce market trends.
This means they're acting as a strategic futurist
They know what customers need now based on their pain points.
and what the market is going to demand next based on competition.
So this CSM has to have the market awareness of a chief strategy officer.
It's an elevated role, much beyond traditional customer support.
They're essentially the engine that turns systemic pain into strategic product definition.
They ensure the voice of 1 million users is literally codified.
Codified into the product roadmap's own language.
This high level of influence is the core of product evolution. Oh, yeah,
Okay, so apart from this payment gateway related glitch, what are the other things you can think of as a pain point?
That is a phenomenal question.
You're asking us to brainstorm real-world examples.
Okay, let's unpack this. Besides payment issues, what else hurts 1 million users?
The biggest category is often logistical or feature friction.
Think about the core e-commerce experience.
We talked about shipping cost opacity. That's a huge one.
Another massive pain point is technical problem solving.
If the user experience for managing returns is complex or unreliable,
That's a systemic failure.
our source mentions the CSM is responsible for driving adoption.
So if a key new feature is confusing and no one uses it,
That lack of adoption is a pain point, a structural misalignment.
the CSM has to translate that low adoption into a concept requirement.
Perhaps they propose a guided onboarding system for that new feature.
The ultimate pain point is anything that stops the user from reaching their business goal.
That includes the
Alright, so coming to the end, what acts as a long-term advocate for the customer within the company?
That is a perfect question to wrap this up.
You've actually hit on the central theme of the entire discussion.
Our source material answers this very clearly.
The CSM, the Customer Success Manager, acts as that long-term advocate.
But we have to emphasize how they fulfill that role at scale.
It's not one person, but the function they perform.
The CSM acts as the primary long-term advocate for the entire 1 million users.
They ensure the collective business goals of those users align with the platform.
And this advocacy is formalized through the feedback loop integration.
They turn pain points like those difficult returns or low feature adoption into action.
They convert those issues into the next set of concept
All right, thank you. So this was all about customer success manager role and their roles and responsibilities for a typical e-commerce company. Thank you.